So I'm going to start with the anatomical landmarks first. So we have the femur, the medial lateral condyles, and then for the tibia we have the tibial plateau, tibial tuberosity, the medial condyle, lateral condyle, Gerdy's tubercle is right down here. We have the shaft, we have the medial malleolus, and then the popliteal line is behind the knee. Then we have the fibula, so we have the apex, the head, the neck, and the shaft, and the lateral mediolus. And then we have the talus, which is this bone right here. Then we have the calcaneus, which is the back of the foot. With that, we have the sustaculum tali, which is right in here. It's that little bump you can feel. And then we have the medial tuberosity, which is, again, right here. And then we have the navicular bone, which is right here. That little bump on it is the tuberosity. And then we have the cuboid, which is right here. Yeah, the cuboid is right there. Then we have the cuneiforms. We have the middle one, or the medial, the middle, and the distal right here. And then we have the metatarsals. So we have the head, the base, and the shaft are right there, and that goes for all of them. And then we have the proximal phalanges, which is right on the big toe, and then we have the middle, and we have the distal, and that goes for all of them. And then we have the sesamoid bones, which is right under here. And now I'm going to do muscles. So first we have the tibialis anterior, which is on the I'm going to move to a different one. I'll come back to that one. I'm going to start with the back of the, I'm going to start with this because this is what I can remember right now. So we have the gastroc right here. The soleus is like underneath the gastroc. The gastroc inserts at the medial and lateral femoral condyles, and it inserts through the calcaneus, the Achilles tendon, and that does plantar flexion. Then we have the soleus, which is underneath the gastroc, and that originates the head and proximal fibula and femoral condyles. No, in the middle tibia, not condyles. And then it inserts at the same place the calcaneus, the Achilles tendon, also does plantar flexion. We have the plantaris, which is that small little muscle that runs from the back of the knee. It originates at the linea aspera of the femur, and then it goes into the calcaneus, and that does weak plantar flexion. You just have to back down. So tibialis anterior is a muscle that goes, it's on the anterior side, it inserts in the lateral femoral condyle and proximal aspect of the fibula, so it's on the lateral side, and then it inserts to the first medial cuneiform and base of first metatarsal, so it crosses over and goes into the first metatarsal. And the action of that is dorsiflexion and inversion. We have the extensor digitorum longus, and that originates at the lateral condyle of the tibia, proximal half of fibula, and the interosseous membrane, and that inserts at the phalanges 2 through 5. So it comes down and goes into the toes, and that does toes 2 through 5 flexion. No, yeah, extension, and then ankle dorsiflexion. And then we have the extensor hallucis longus, and that's inserts the middle half of the fibula and interosseous membrane, and that inserts at the base of the distal flanks of great toe. So it goes down here all the way to the great toe, and that does great toe extension and ankle dorsiflexion. And then we have the peroneus tertius, and that originates on distal half of fibula and interosseous membrane, and then it goes to the dorsal aspect of the fifth metatarsal, so down to the pinky toe. And it does ankle dorsiflexion and inversion. Then we have the lateral compartment, so we have the peroneus longus. It's down here. It inserts on the lateral tibial condyle in the head proximal 2/3 of the fibula, and that inserts at the base of the first metatarsal and first cuneiform. And then that does eversion and plantar flexion. And then the peroneus brevis, which is it originates in the distal half of the fibula, and it goes into the styloid process of the fifth metatarsal. So it runs from here to there, and that does eversion and plantar flexion. And then we have the tibialis posterior, so that's on the back side, kind of middle posterior tibia, middle aspect of the fibula and interosseous membrane, and it inserts through the navicular, which is right here, the medial cuneiform and metatarsals 2 through 5, and that's weak plantar flexion and inversion. And then we have the flexor digitorum, so that inserts the posterior tibia, and then it goes to the base of the distal phalanges 2 through 5, and that's 2 through 5 flexion and plantar flexion also. Then we have the flexor hallucis longus, and that originates on the interosseous membrane and the posterior fibula, and it inserts the distal phalanx of great toe, and that does great toe flexion, so it runs down that way. And then we have joints. So we have the proximal tibiofibular joint, and that joint is up here near the fibula. Yeah, up here near the fibula, and that does dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. Oh shit. Okay. And then we have the distal tibiofibular joint, which is on the lateral medialis. It connects down here, and that does dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. And then we have the talocrural joint, which is right on top of the talus, and that does dorsi and plantar flexion. Then we have the subtalar joint, which is right on the back near the calcaneus, and that does what does that do? Inversion, eversion. Then we have the metatarsophalangeal joint, and that is kind of on top of the navicular. It does flexion, extension, and limited abduction. And then we have the proximal and distal interphalangeal joints. So proximal and distal, and those both do flexion and extension. And we have, lastly, we have ligaments of the ankle and foot. So we have the anterior tibiofibular ligament and and that is where tib and fib come together, and it resists inversion and plantar flexion. Then we have the anterior talofibular joint, which is where the talus and the fibula meet, so kind of right here. And then we have the calcaneofibular ligament, which is where calcaneus and fibula meet on the back. And then we have the deltoid ligament, which is medial, it's kind of like right here. And then we have the spring ligament, which is also calcaneonavicular, which is right on the calcaneus and navicular, kind of wraps around like that. Then we have the Achilles tendon, which is right on the back of the ankle. It's this long kind of a structure on the back of the leg. And we have the plantar fascia, which is underneath the foot. Yeah, all underneath the foot. And that reduces friction. And we have the interosseous membrane, and that just helps maintain space. Yeah, I think that's it.